I have no clue which one it's on, to be honest with you, but you can look that up on the Vikings site. So letsgovikings.com. Check them out and find out where it is. Listen to Al Pulowski, but we're going to talk about it tomorrow. The 5-5 unranked Vikings travel down to number 6 Virginia to try to beat the Cavaliers. Not our Cavaliers, those Cavaliers. Meanwhile, Virginia looks to shoot out to 10-0 to start the season. A couple of things. Talking about the Cavaliers, their name back up. We don't want to talk too much about last night. We already started the show talking about the way that game was played last night. One of the things a lot of people talk about, we've brought it up, different, what are the Cavs going to do with their roster, so on and so. I'm not big on that right now. These cats need to come every day and play defense. And before we start talking about adding help and pieces, get the pieces that you've got to play the best they can first. But rumors beginning to pick up again and swirl around Corey Brewer from Minnesota. You remember a few weeks back we talked about him being available and the Cavs being one of the top teams inquiring. The Clippers jumped in on that. Now hearing that after they pulled Brewer off, did Minnesota. Remember, they took him off the trade market for about the last 3 or 4 weeks, but they had to. They had guys banged up. They lost Kevin Martin. They had Rubio was hobbled on an ankle injury for a while. They had to keep some depth there. They couldn't afford to trade anybody at that point. Now at 5-19, Flip Saunders has talked about acknowledging the reality of this being a building season for them. Lord knows we know what that means. And so they've put Brewer back on the block. Rockets, Cavs, Clippers, all 3 of those teams high up in the conversation. Word from ESPN last I saw was that Cleveland and Houston considered 2 of the favorites. But that being said, I like Corey Brewer, man. We talked about it a little bit before. I think that he has got the kind of game that would fit right in with what the Cavs are doing. It would be an interesting piece to see added. I am definitely, as I said to start this, I'm not big on looking around and playing fantasy GM and how can we fix the Cavs with a magic wand. Cavs just need to get better as a team first, and then you can figure out what piece will put you over the top or put you, whatever you're looking to do, whatever you're looking to add to your team there. So, but that all being said, I'll take Corey Brewer. That's for sure. Depending on, hey, at this rate, another trade with Minnesota, they'll end up with the Cavs' next 3 or 4 future drafts by the time it's all said and done. But if it gets you where you need to go, then understandably so. But I like that, man. And Houston too. They know. I think Brewer's got a little dog in him over there, and you'd still have some of the issues. You got to get a guy used to playing in games that matter and all of that stuff because we know about Minnesota. But you also have some familiarity with Kevin Love. They obviously played together in Minnesota, known for being a good tandem in the fast break with transition, and Love throws them outlet passes, and Brewer was one that was on the receiving end in Minnesota. And shooting guard, of course, is an issue as far as who's going to start there and then who's going to come off the bench. We can trade pieces around and say, well, should Dion start or come off the bench? Regardless, I think you're still short a shooting guard in there somewhere. I mean, although effectively Kyrie Irving plays shooting guard even though he's at the point guard position defensively. Defense, there's that word again, defense. Surprising how that always comes up. But I'd be all about Corey Brewer if the Indians. Oh, Lord. I just got an email from the Indians. If the Cavaliers can pull off a trade, that makes a lot of sense. But I expect Minnesota to dangle him out there. I mean, you don't just take the first deal. Well, Oakland takes the first deal that they can get, but other than that, you try to get a good deal. But I expect that to be the conversation for the next month or so. What do you guys think? Hit me up. Let me know. Corey Brewer, somebody you're interested in seeing perhaps added to this Cavaliers team. Trade rumors all around. Rondo was the big one. That was where I really was going to go with this, is all the talk of him perhaps in this blockbuster deal, sending him down to the Dallas Mavericks. Brendan Wright was the upcoming player that I heard kind of centered around this, and then there was a bunch of draft picks that would be tied in. At least 1 or 2 first-round picks are being talked about, multiple draft picks in the package. Brendan Wright, other players who would make the numbers add up because you can only send out so much of the salary that you send back in. Celtics said to be talking to a half a dozen teams, but Dallas is the one closest to making some kind of a deal. And I just got to tell you, I don't know about the package or any of that. I don't know about the price. I'm not judging Boston's deal, but man, Dallas would have a nice starting lineup there. with Rondo. That would settle in. You'd have Dirk, you'd have Chandler Parsons, you have Tyson Chandler, you'd have Monte Ellis, and Rondo would most likely be your starting five there, man. And Rondo, I like Rondo. We heard some comments earlier in the show during the news break. I like him as a defender, and he would definitely add some bite to that Mavericks team defensively, offensively as well. Some leadership there. Not that they need a ton of veteran leadership, but you know what I'm saying. I think that'd be a good deal for the Mavs and the Celtics. It's a big step to part with the guy who's been a part of your thing, and that's it. I think that's the biggest delay is they realize that once they make that move, man, it's all steam ahead on the next direction, which you've already been 1 foot in and 1 foot out on rebuilding this thing anyway. I mean, holding on to Rondo is just kind of like the last thing, and he's up against his free agency year anyway. But Boston has fought and held off on that for quite some time here before I think they're going to hit the reality that that's going to come to an end, and the Rondo era in Boston most likely comes to an end. He talked about it. He said, man, I've been rumored to be traded every year of this contract. So at this point, I don't even have any comment about it. I spend every day of my life rumored to be traded. It's just a part of things. But yeah, the end of that's probably coming for Rondo. And you know what, too? I that's funny because some guys have hit me up, not recently, but like during this past offseason. Rondo was one they would argue Cavs should dump Kyrie, and I always fought that and go with a guy like Rondo, go make a trade, and the age was the thing. Although he's not, I get it, he's not over the hill, but still, man, like making a move for that. That's a win now move that Dallas is trying to make there, And I'll tell you what, the Cavs for the next few years, that's where they're going to be in the win now thing, and that's fun for the time. I told you guys I was just reading the second time through. Read Glory Days in Tribe Town, and there's several chapters where they talk about feeding the beast and how the monster that was created through the first couple years of that Indians thing, and you really look back at all the trades, the prospects sent out, the different guys sent out. I'm with you, Vashon. I'm not going to go 10 years, but I don't know that Rondo's got a strong 5+ left in him either, and that's the argument you would make when you're talking about a guy like Kyrie at the beginning of his career. I'm not meaning specific Kyrie, Rondo. We don't need to get into that, but that's the idea. I don't go 10 years with you, but he definitely got some game left. This is not Ray Allen waiting until February. What about that, by the way? Ray Allen, maybe in February he'll decide. I was joking with some buddies about that yesterday. I said, that's the life right there. Listen, I like Jesus Shuttlesworth. I like Ray Allen as a player. I like what he's done in his career. That being said, he's already at the tail end of it. I don't know how effective he is. I know he's a stand, spot up, and shoot guy at this point in his career, but, man, I don't know. You guys, I'm not saying this bad, because like I just said, I like Jesus Shuttlesworth, but is Ray Allen at the point in his career, and I don't mean like status-wise or star status or anything, physically, his game, is he worth a team waiting half a season and then bringing him on? And I mean, maybe teams feel he is. And I know if you've got a really young team, like a guy like LeBron feels, we need a guy with experience. We need more of these guys to set the right example for guys. And I know that's what Ray brings to the table. But, man, I don't know. I just thought he can still stroke the three. You leave him wide open, and Ray will kill you every time. But I didn't know the way he left last season, just the way his game was, I'm going, man, I could see him having another year or two left. It's staying at that game, and I'm sure he's staying. Listen, he's been playing ball forever, so I'm sure he's staying in shape. He's not sitting on the couch eating bonbons. But, man, go until February. I just think you're hoping to get him back up to speed and get him rolling by playoff time. When you crunch train an older athlete, that's what scares me, is you get pulls, you get hamstrings, because you're squeezing that training into a shorter period of time. Now, I'm sure as a professional, he's been doing his thing, but, think about that. You come back in February, you got a 3-month build up there to get you ready for the playoffs and so on, and 2.5 months, however long it is. I worry that that's where you pull the hammy, you tweak something, it drags on, and I just think a lot of times when you're on the hamster wheel, as long as you stay on it, you're able to you keep going. Even if you've been getting broke down for 20 years, you keep moving. I think a lot of athletes will tell you that when they stop playing the game. If you're a wrestler and you stop wrestling, if you're a football player and you stop playing football, boxer, whatever it is, then you get back into it, all of a sudden you find yourself getting banged up more than you did before. You find yourself being injured in different ways. It's weird. It's like when you come off the hamster wheel, even though you're in shape and even though you get back on, it's not the same. And now things get you differently. I don't know how else to explain it when I say hamster wheel, but you're constantly running. You're going. You're always playing another game. You've got your routine for 15, 20 years in a row. You break that for a while. Sometimes when you come back, that's when the stop and start injuries come in. But, hey, man, like I said, I like Ray Allen, and it's not like there's somebody, there's some spots on the bench that I can part with. So it's not like there's somebody on the bench that I'm going to go, well, we can't get rid of that guy. No, there's room for him. I just wondered if you guys thought, like I was wondering, I'm like, is there enough in the tank that he can get himself back in shape and then still bring something to the table? I mean, because, you're talking about a championship, or that expectation is what you're shooting for. So, is there going to be something there? I'm all for it. If the Cavs think it's good, that's cool. But I saw that the other day, and we didn't even mention it on the show. Allen targeting February return. I said, man, nice work if you can get it, man. I'm going to sit at the house, and then I'll come out, and I'll play with you guys later. Let me get through Christmas and New Year's and, President's Day and Martin Luther King Day. I got some holidays, Valentine's Day. Then I'll get out there. I think I should be ready to play. I've got a big Martin Luther King thing coming up. I've got a Valentine's Day appearance. After that, I think I'm ready to play some ball. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if he ends up with the Cavaliers. We'll see if the Cavs make a trade for Corey Brewer. And you're right, Vishal, of course. That's the veteran. That's the good thing that comes with it, brother. You don't want to go through the season. And he said, hey, look, if you don't want me, then I'll just retire and I'll just be done. If you want me, then I don't play in the first 2/3 of the season because I don't need it. I don't need this. I'm not in the mood to fly all over the place and travel and stuff. I'm going to sit at the house. Call me when the games mean something. And I can dig that too. Let's see if he can contribute if and when we get to that point in time. Man, I'll tell you something. I wanted to get into this more with Dan Wismar sent me. Now it's everywhere. Dan Wismar sent it to me before it started breaking about Bo Pellini and him going off to his former players when he sat them down after somebody recorded the 30-plus minutes. I listened to the whole thing. Deadspin transcribed it if you guys want to go listen to it. He went to town on the athletic director and the I don't know, what is it, front office administration is the term you would use for a college team over there at Nebraska. He went to town, and he just kept going, and it kept circling back to it, man. Some strong quotes. He'd rather work at McDonald's than work with some of those people that he worked with at Nebraska, and much more than that. He blatantly disrespected the athletic director of Nebraska, called him out of his name in several unfriendly terms to the locker room. Let's see. I can't read some of it to you, but anyways. And then, of course, the Nebraska answered back yesterday, now that this is out, says if these comments were indeed spoken by Mr. Pellini, we're extremely disappointed, but it only reaffirms the decision that he should no longer be a leader of young men at Nebraska. You know what's funny? And it's just the world that we live in, but when college coaches, flame out, it's always got to do with the leadership of young men, and then when they win games, it's got to do much more with the winning on the field, man. You can paint any narrative any way you want. That's what's awesome and deadly about this world that we live in. Like that Manziels story yesterday. He showed up at 7:30 in the morning. Hey, I'm cool with that. Hats off for showing up early. He showed up an hour early for practice. ESPN reported it was 5 hours early. USA Today reported it was 47 minutes early or whatever. And the best part was that somebody followed Johnny Manziel's car to practice. Like, think about that. Like, that was what the first line of the story was his car. Like, whose job is, I'm sorry, but you need a new job. If you get paid for a living to do things like follow Johnny Manziel to practice and report what time he showed up to practice, man. But again, signs of the world we live in, guys. A lot of things. Monsters are playing tonight get a chance, check them out at the Q as they continue this